G'day, Paul here from The Business of Art, where creativity and commerce come together. Today's video is part 3 in my conversation with Cheryl-Lee Seckham, marketing specialist in Brisbane. In today's video, Cheryl-Lee talks about how to start your marketing strategy. So, let's go.
This is The Business of Art.
You touched on the strategy, the plan. I would guess, from your experience, most creatives, most artists don't have a marketing plan or a marketing strategy.
No, not at all.
So, and I would hazard a guess that if you said, "Oh, what's your marketing strategy?" there'll be this kind of, all the blood will drain from their face and their heart will start pumping like they're about to die. What do people need to do to be able to get to that point? Because there is that sense of it. There's a bit of fear around doing that. There's a bit of, I don't know where to start when I'm doing that. Do you have any kind of tips on starting a marketing plan or a marketing strategy?
I think it begins, the first thing that they've got to accept, creatives have to accept, is because they are a one-man show often, and even in large companies with a large infrastructure, they still don't have the manpower and they're working with volunteers. That still only have, 1 or 2 people doing the marketing if they're lucky to find that person. I think they have to understand they're not going to get everything done all the time and there are compromises to be made. So it's whittling down what is really effective to start with, what is going to make the most impact in the time that I've got, and letting go of the rest. I find that creatives look at the list of things that, they've downloaded some marketing plan offline, which is great, good for learning.
Good start.
But it's terrifying. Yeah. And you look at a run sheet leading 12 weeks up to your show and you go, I'm not going to be able to do all of that. Well, no, you're not. And that's okay. Just start, just begin. It's just beginning. So if you pull it right down to basics for creatives doing it themselves, the most important thing they need to start with is the visuals. So it's a photo shoot. So developing a strategy involves everything visual and understanding that what you're doing, all you are doing is telling people you exist. That's it. So how do I do that? What is at my fingertips to do that without spending a lot or any money? Social media is obvious. Then there's editorial and connections with journalists that can run stories for you. And then that's a whole different thing again. Understanding platforms like your website. If I don't have a website, I can't afford a website. Okay, let's set up Facebook to be your website. How do I do that? Okay. So I start them developing a good photo shoot. If you've got good promotional images, then we can do all sorts of things. It's working with good quality amateur photographers that can come in and take behind the scenes photos. It's building up or banking content. So from the start of whatever you do, from the very beginning as you're sitting down talking about starting a theatre company, it's documenting everything visually. Not knowing how you're necessarily going to use taking a photo or doing a boomerang or a little video, footage. You don't necessarily know how you're going to use it in the future, but you're banking a library of content because later on you have no idea how much content you're going to need. So you're creating a bank, bringing things down to the simplest form. Pick 4 or 5 colours that go together. That you like. Pick 2 fonts that you like together and only use these things in everything you do. So consistency.
Are you talking at the theatre company level, down to the show level?
Everything.
So for every show that
it'll have its own little branding kit.
Right, so there might be different fonts and different...
Yeah.
So the theatre company might have one set, but that individual show has a couple of fonts, a few colours, and then every piece of branding for that individual show...
You draw from that pond.
...uses that. Then the next show might have different fonts, different colours.
That's right.
But again, you're creating a little pool of stuff for that.
Because it's all brand recognition. You don't know where all your stuff is going to go.
Yeah.
And what you want, it's little drip feeding. They used to say in the old days, you had to... have a touch point of like 6 times before with a prospective client before they would even notice you existed. Now they say it's more like 14 or 15. That's a lot of times that people have got to see you, and if you're only using social media, that's tough as it is. But that's a lot of times that people have actually got to notice you to be able to then say, oh, I know that person or I know that theatre company. If you're changing everything you do visually all the time, they're never going to develop brand recognition. And so
interesting point.
you are not, you'll never be noticed. You just blend into the sea of everything that is on social media. Another thing is keeping it simple, the good old simplicity, because people, you know, want to put everything into a social media post that is like this big on your phone, forgetting the fact that people are scrolling through at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know, they don't consider simplicity has a bigger impact in the busy world of visuals nowadays. It's using volunteers or giving up volunteers that have skills they want to develop, particularly photographers, they're very valuable, videographers, the opportunity to come and work with you in theatre, which is really interesting, and provide you with more content.
I really like that idea of setting up a content bank of, you know, if you're doing a rehearsal, taking 30 photos and just chucking them in the bank and not putting them all out on one post. You can spread those 30 photos across 5, 6, 7, 10 posts and keep telling your story for a couple of weeks if there's a gap, because, you know, a lot of rehearsals might only happen once or twice a week for smaller companies, and you might want to post something every day, so you can take, I mean, you're talking about consistency of posting.
Consistency of posting.
Does that come into it as well?
It absolutely does. With social media, there are ways, I mean, social media even now is different to what it was 2 years ago. Using your Instagram account is different to what it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's always changing, and there are places and platforms where you can go and learn and keep up with that. Because if you're using strategies on Instagram, Facebook that were, you know, relevant 6 months ago, you're already out of date and it's not working for you.
That comes back before, I think, also to not being scared of the fact that that's the truth. I think that's just a caveat very quickly. You know, I hear that and I'm like, yeah, and again, that's just something else I've got to go and learn and something I've got to go and spend time doing. But I think the point you made earlier is super important, is that you just start, and doing something is better than doing nothing.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yes. If you pick on Instagram, post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every 48 hours, and set it. There are free scheduling apps. I mean, there's so much technology that can help us to do that.
There we go, some great advice from Cheryl Lee today. I think the three main takeaways for me in that are: put a plan together, push for consistency, but don't beat yourself up if you can't get everything done. There is a lot to do, so don't be too judgmental of yourself if you can't achieve everything. Secondly, build up that content bank. I think that's a fantastic idea. Get volunteers, amateur photographers, anyone you can find to come and help you out, to build up a big bank of content that you can share consistently throughout your marketing campaign. And number three, put a style guide together. Couple of colors, couple of fonts that really are going to be the basis for how you tell the marketing story throughout your marketing campaign. Three really great tips there, I think. Some really great stuff for us all to think about. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Would love it if you could hit that like button, crush the subscribe button, and of course, if you found something valuable in this video, there is probably a good chance that you know somebody else who would find something valuable in it as well. So please tag them in the comments, share it with them, whatever you've got to do to pay it forward so we can keep helping each other out. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.